The night Che Hye-Jin met Park Nam-Kyu, Seoul was wrapped in soft rain. Not the violent kind that floods the streets, just a quiet drizzle that turned the city lights into shimmering reflections on wet pavement. Hye-Jin loved nights like that. The cafes in Hongdae were warm and crowded, filled with students and artists escaping the rain. She sat near the window of a small cafe, her laptop open, pretending to work while watching people rush past outside. Then the cafe door opened. A tall man stepped in, shaking rain from his dark coat. His hair was slightly wet, his posture calm, his presence strangely composed compared to the noisy room around him. For a moment, their eyes met. It was brief. Just a second. But something about the way he looked at her felt deliberate. He walked to the counter, ordered coffee, then turned and realized every table was taken, except the empty seat across from her. He approached slowly. "Excuse me," he said politely, his voice low and smooth. "Would you mind if I sit here?" Hye-Jin smiled and closed her laptop. Of course. That simple moment felt ordinary. But sometimes, the smallest decisions rewrite entire lives. Over the next hour, the rain kept falling, and they kept talking. His name was Park Nam-Kyu. He worked in corporate finance, something serious and complicated that Hye-Jin didn't fully understand. But he explained things gently, often smiling at her confused reactions. She told him she worked as a freelance illustrator. He seemed genuinely fascinated. "Artists see things most people miss," he said, studying her face carefully. There was something thoughtful about him. Calm, patient. In a city as fast as Seoul, he felt like someone who had learned how to move slowly. When the cafe closed, they stepped outside together. The rain had softened into a mist. Before they parted, he said something that made her heart flutter. "I'm glad the cafe was full tonight." She laughed softly. "Why?" "Because otherwise I might never have spoken to you." Their second meeting happened 3 days later. Then another. Soon, those casual encounters became routine. Walks along the Han River at night. Late dinners in quiet restaurants. Long conversations that stretched until the last subway trains had stopped running. Nam-Kyu had a way of making Hye-Jin feel like the most interesting person in the world. He listened closely when she spoke. Remembered tiny details. The way she hated bitter coffee. Her favorite color. The story behind a small scar on her wrist from childhood. No one had ever paid attention to her like that before. Being around him felt safe. And slowly, gently, she fell in love. Months passed. Their relationship grew deeper. Nam-Kyu was attentive in ways that seemed almost perfect. If she mentioned being cold once, he would bring her a scarf the next day. If she looked tired, he would insist on walking her home. If someone stared at her too long, his gaze would linger on that person just a little longer than necessary. At first, Hye-Jin thought it was romantic. Protective. But sometimes, protection can blur into something else. One evening, while they were having dinner, Nam-Kyu asked a simple question. "Do you still talk to your ex?" Hye-Jin blinked. "Sometimes." "We're still friends." They are shifted slightly. Nam-Kyu smiled, but the warmth in his eyes faded for just a moment. "Friends," he repeated slowly. Then he reached across the table and gently held her hand. "I just worry about you." His voice was calm, soft. But something about the way he said it made Hye-Jin feel like she had done something wrong. The changes started small. Nam-Kyu preferred if she texted him whenever she arrived somewhere. He liked knowing where she was. He said it made him feel less anxious. At first, it felt sweet, but soon, the texts became questions. Then explanations, then silent tension when she forgot. One night, when she arrived home late after meeting a friend, she found 3 missed calls from him. When she called back, he answered immediately. His voice sounded calm, but tight. "Why didn't you answer earlier?" "I was with a friend." "A friend," he repeated. "Yes." There was a pause, a long one. Then he sighed softly. I was worried. Still, he never shouted, never raised his voice, never said anything cruel that made it harder to notice the change. Instead, his words became quieter, more careful. Sometimes he would stare at her in a way that made her feel like he was studying something invisible. One night, Hye-Jin woke up suddenly. The apartment was dark. But Nam-Kyu wasn't asleep beside her. She sat up and noticed light coming from the living room. When she stepped out quietly, she saw him sitting on the couch. Her laptop was open in front of him. He was scrolling through her messages. The glow from the screen illuminated his face. His expression was completely blank. When he noticed her standing there, he closed the laptop slowly. "I was just looking for a charger," he said. But the way he watched her afterward made it clear that something had changed. Over the next weeks, an uncomfortable feeling began to grow inside Hye-Jin. Nam-Kyu started appearing in places she hadn't told him about. A café where she was meeting a friend. A bookstore she visited after work. Even the art studio she sometimes rented. Each time, he would smile as if the encounter were coincidence. But coincidences rarely happen 3 times in 1 week. Then one night, everything shifted. Hye-Jin was using Nam-Kyu's laptop to send an email when a notification popped up. It was a message. The name attached to it wasn't familiar. But the preview text made her stomach tighten. "Did you finally tell her the truth?" Her heart started beating faster. Before she could stop herself, she clicked the message. The chat history opened. What she read made the room feel suddenly colder. There were conversations, old ones. Photos, messages from years earlier. Different women, different names. But the words were the same romantic phrases. The same promises, the same slow transition from love to control. Her hands trembled as she scrolled further. Some of the messages ended abruptly. Others ended with words like restraining order or police report. Her breath caught in her throat. Footsteps sounded behind her. Nam-Kyu was standing in the doorway. He had been watching. For how long, she didn't know. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he walked slowly into the room. His face looked calm, almost gentle. But something in his eyes had changed completely. "You weren't supposed to see that yet," he said quietly. The words sent a chill down her spine. "Yet," she whispered. Nam-Kyu tilted his head slightly, as if considering something. "You're different from the others," he said. His voice sounded almost disappointed. "I thought you would understand me better." Hye-Jin felt her chest tighten. "What are you talking about?" For the first time since they met, his smile looked wrong. Not angry, not violent. Just deeply unsettling. "I love them too," he said softly. "But they all left." He stepped closer. "And you won't do that, will you?" The room suddenly felt much smaller. Hye-Jin's mind raced. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But running wasn't easy when the person you feared was standing between you and the door. That night, Hye-Jin realized something terrifying. The man she had fallen in love with hadn't suddenly changed. He had simply stopped pretending. The charm, the kindness, the patience. They had all been part of something carefully constructed. A performance. And now that she knew the truth, the performance was over. Just before dawn, while Nam-Kyu slept on the couch, Hye-Jin quietly grabbed her coat. Her heart pounded with every step toward the door. When she opened it, cold morning air rushed into the apartment. She didn't stop walking, not once. Not even when the sun began rising over the rooftops of Seoul. Months later, Hye-Jin would still wake up some nights with the same thought echoing in her mind. Love can feel like safety. It can feel like destiny. But sometimes, the most dangerous people in the world are the ones who know exactly how to make you fall in love with them. And somewhere in Seoul, Park Nam-Kyu was still walking through crowded cafes. Still smiling politely. Still looking for the next person who might believe him.